What do you think is the true destroyer of modern dating? The gamification of swiping left or right on hundreds of profiles based on 2-second first impressions, typing one-word messages and then ghosting them or unmatching because you're bored, not treating them like actual humans. There's always a new profile to move on to. I say this as someone who literally met their current spouse on Tinder, but online dating apps are, for the most part, very demoralizing. I couldn't wait to get off the app and meet up in person to have a real human connection. 100%. Dating apps are incredibly dehumanizing. Story 2. If we consider that modern dating is largely just online dating at this point, then the clear-cut destroyer of modern dating to me is monetization. A decade ago, Tinder was awesome. It's very easy to match with people, plan dates, and participate in fooling around culture if you wanted to. OkCupid was fun and based on personality, lifestyle, and chemistry. Bumble was a decent alternative to Tinder. Then they all, I think, got bought out by one company and all started to care more about profit than purpose. Bumble, you get like 10 likes a day max. Sometimes 5. It's inconsistent. Tinder, you have a ton of bots and ads and spam accounts. You have to pay money to access the same features that you got for free before. OkCupid went away with their great formula and went for a swipe feature instead, and now it sucks. Hinge could be good, but it locks away the most essential, basic filters for finding suitable dates behind a paywall. It's just greed that destroys everything. Story 3. We're tired, boss. We're just plain worn out, burnt out, run down tired. Work-life balance is gone, society is mentally draining, and literally everything worth doing costs money. When the hell are you supposed to meet that person when you get home from work and immediately go to bed so you can be up at 4:30 to do it again tomorrow? Story 4. Call me old-fashioned, but it's the complete lack of mystique in my opinion. Part of the fun of dating pre-internet was learning about a person and getting to know them through conversation and shared experience. We're more connected than ever before, but there's a loneliness epidemic happening. It all seems so cheap and seedy nowadays. Story 5. Many of these things are not exclusive to the modern era, but here we go. Women not being financially dependent on men and therefore not finding relationships as essential as they once did. Financial independence for women is good, by the way, but this is a natural consequence of that. People having excessively high expectations and rejecting potential partners because of them. These expectations are caused by many things, including corn, romantic comedies, fairy tales, and an incorrect judgment of one's own marketplace value. The fact that settling has become a dirty word. Settling is a good thing. Settling is taking a look at the world around you and agreeing to achieve something you can realistically achieve. Many people refuse to do that and sit around waiting for somebody perfect to come along. They won't. Reality isn't a Build-A-Bear. The perfect person for you probably doesn't exist. Sure, settling for less is bad, but settling itself is about as sensible as you can get, unless you want to be alone. Women and men dislike each other. There are large populations of straight men and women who hate the opposite gender. Men hating feminists and Andrew Tate worshipping men are probably going to have a hard time forming relationships with people of the opposite gender. Strange concept, I know, but to form a good relationship with a man or woman, you kind of have to actually like men and women. The illusion of choice. There are not an unlimited number of people for you to date. There are about an equal number of straight men and women. There are many people you could date, but many competitors for those people. As you get older, the pool just gets smaller and smaller as well. At the end of the day, we almost all end up with only one person. I wrote many things because there is never a single factor. Each of these things negatively impacts the dating life for some people, and many small things add up to a big thing. Story 6. Frankly, pickup artistry destroyed modern dating. So many men have this attitude that dating is a game, they need to win. Advice like, always talk to multiple women, hedge your bets. May work if you're trying to fool around, but attitudes like that end genuine relationships. If you call asking someone for the number going in for the hit, you're not mature enough for a relationship. When women say there's no good men, this is what they mean. So many men have grown up using manipulative tactics to get dates that they can't snap out of those toxic habits. Story 7. Social media and dating apps. People are always consuming so much information about people and seeing new opportunities. It's like how kids have a short attention span if they're watching TV a lot. What's worse is that if someone does show interest, it's considered lame or desperate, and nobody needs to make an effort anymore. It's all a mess. Story 8. Thinking it's okay to tell a girl you've spoken to for 3 days about how turned on you are. Putting on a fake persona. I've spoken to 100 crypto investing, funny friends who wear cargos and love Kanye. Like, I promise you don't need to be embarrassed about the fact that you collect Star Wars comics and did gymnastics for 12 years. It makes you interesting and fun to talk to. The whole girls are prettier on average, so therefore you're not special thing. In the kindest way possible, girls put so much time and effort into their appearance only to be told, well, guys just aren't as good looking, so don't expect someone similar to you. I definitely think more men need to make an effort when it comes to appearance and hygiene because no girl wants to settle for someone who just doesn't care. The whole "I only take 5 minutes to get ready" thing isn't attractive. The final big point is that most girls I know can cook, clean, go to the gym, work, and are getting an education. If your mom is still washing your clothes and sending you food every week for uni, I don't know what to tell you. Please grow up. No one wants to be their boyfriend's mother. Story 9. I feel like most people's social skills post-lockdown kind of suck. I'm not sure if that's because we're online more or if we're all just got in our bubbles, but it's not an ideal situation. I think this is leading to the bad dating economy more than anything. I don't online date, but I do often go to bars by myself and I meet multiple guys 100% of the time, like in real-life Tinder. And in the last few months, I haven't met anyone I would date. Whether it's ranting about how feminism is man-made, why a man would think this is a sexy thing to talk about is beyond crazy. Just gushing "you're so beautiful" repeatedly, putting their hand on my leg or grabbing my sides to walk around me without consent. Men have gotten a lot creepier lately. Even at the grocery store, I try to give the vibe I'm open to talk, and I end up being followed around the store. My neighbor has a crush on me and used to wait 2 hours outside my building when I went to yoga. Other neighbors have been upset about him standing out there, so he's mostly stopped. Something is not right. Story 10. Women's expectations and social acceptability in a diverse set of social roles has broadened and men simply hasn't. Men primarily need to work on that on their end, for what it's worth, and stop insulting each other for doing non-traditional stuff. I don't think it's feasible in the long run to have a society where women ought to be able to strive to have a PhD and men ought to still need to. There can only be one CEO, dean of the college, board of directors, president of the United States, etc. Unless and until the dam breaks with far more women making the first move, paying on the first date, etc., and far more men taking off work to be home with a sick kid, changing a diaper, being a stay-at-home parent, working a low-paying job but being able to marry up, etc., the dating world will just remain a cesspool of bitterness, confusion, and shame for most people going through it. Story 11. The true destroyer is lack of time. We have built a society in a way where we work 9 to 5 or at least 8 hours. Some do more. Work out a bit to keep healthy, even if that is walking, it's still time, and then try to keep a healthy diet. Which means that at least 5 days a week there's no time to date, and there certainly isn't any time to choose or look for something better or more suited to you. I grew up in Greece, and I came across people getting married so that they can share living costs. Story 12. Several factors. Its original objective was for two people to get to know one another, slowly, in an environment that promoted feelings and with an objective of finding out if they were compatible for a long-term relationship. Both partners wanted things to work. The man, in particular, wanted to show what he was and his worth to the lady and the way he treated her. It is, in effect, courtship. Like when a bowerbird builds a very impressive nest for the girl bird, an important issue, both would be going exclusively with one another during the courtship period. When women, always them, complain that men don't want to date, they fail to understand that they are not giving them any real reason to date. They're expecting courtship behavior when there is no courtship going on. Now the date is seen as a prelude to intimacy and one that only the woman wants. The man would skip it as unnecessary if he could get the intimacy, which is also not exclusive to him. He's also next in line, a bigger line too. The investment in time and effort is simply not worth it. Moreover, like the weddings, dates have become very expensive and more ceremonial, and the less they have with them, it seems the more is expected. The harder it is on the man, the lesser the incentive to do it. There's always the issue of this is not an important occasion. Like in the past when a lot rode on it, there's always next on Tinder. And lastly, there's both too much choice. So whoever is with you is always flawed, as you are to them, and too many expectations due to choice in media. People want perfect when they themselves are not, and at that moment are being judged as pretty flawed. Finally, there is the ongoing social narrative that you deserve it all, and we all know that it is not true because all is simply not available on the shelf. It's not in stock today, but we insist so we skip on great people because of that. Story 13. Definitely social media. Anytime I'm in a relationship and take a social media break, disable my account, my partner or friends think the relationship ended. All I see on social media are posts about cheating being glorified, what the ideal man or woman is, or someone trying to speak for all in behalf of X gender. Social media makes you feel lonely and makes you feel pressured to live up to some societal standard that may not even be meant for you. If I don't message fast enough, I'm cheating. If I message too much, I'm obsessed. It's freaking tiring trying to date as a 32 female. I wish I lived in a culture where people did not feel like their private lives have to be shown to the world for someone else's approval. Story 14. Been married for the last 5 years, but was 25 to 35 through the rise of the dating apps. As a man who is socially shy but can be very outgoing once I get to know you, dating apps were amazing for me. I don't think they should be the only way you meet other people, but should definitely augment it. However, at 25, once I got done with school and got a job and wasn't constantly around an influx of new people in social settings, they were great for me. I do think they give women a bit of illusion of power and choices they may not really have if they set their standards a little too high. And there are certainly some guys who cannot communicate effectively through the medium, mostly through lack of effort to create some original thoughts. This leads to the top 10% of guys being able to date the top 50% of girls. What worked for me? Yes, I am above average in looks, not a supermodel and not a gym freak, but I'm mostly relying on my personality. Learn how to be funny without being overly creepy. Learn how to ask questions and listen, and follow up with a question. Maintain eye contact while not giving off creepy vibes. Think about some funny or crazy things that have happened to you. Now, practice telling it in a story. You'll figure out how to make it even funnier relating it to the other person and can figure out how to fit one or two in a conversation. Listen, ask follow-up questions, make a reference or a joke. Follow-up questions, listen, repeat. Eventually, they will ask about you again when they were interested. Now you have some stories about you that are secondhand. Be nice. Don't be a schmuck. Movies aren't a first date, and frankly, coffee isn't either for me. There's no commitment there, and generally, dinner or an actual activity gives you more to engage and talk about organically without it being awkward. And frankly, as someone who doesn't like coffee, I don't want to sit there and lie about how good this crap is. Story 15. Online dating and extreme shallowness. No one cares about who you are as a person because they're so busy trying to outdo each other. All the men I've encountered are shallow. And those guys were on a full spectrum from what's considered hot right through to fat and balding George Costanza types. Every last one wanted a Kim Kardashian. One guy got mad that I didn't have fake lips. Another wanted me to have surgery so I'd look better. Then you get the Reddit bros who will jump on and swear the problem is women. The women must all be shallow and mean because they won't go out with average nice guys who are allegedly out there in abundance just waiting. The hard, cold truth is, you're probably just not the nice guy you think you are. Story 16. I think online dating in particular is intimidating and unintuitive because it skips the vibe vetting process that occurs in social settings like classrooms, work environments, or anywhere people gather to interact without the express purpose of finding a partner. Life puts you in a situation surrounded by people, and a lot of the groundwork laid in the first dates, like do we have the same sense of humor, do we click, gets done by just observing and conversing with no ulterior motive or anticipation of dating at all. It gives you some way to gauge your likely compatibility with a person you might want to ask out, often through some flirting with the comfort of plausible deniability. I would argue this is the natural way for human beings to form connections. The idea of just picking a random person off the internet based on a picture and some blurbs of text is terrifying, because it really is unnatural. You're immediately putting yourself in a very vulnerable position, risking humiliation with no chance to feel out beforehand whether the date was a good idea in the first place. Story 17. Standards being nearly impossible to reach because that's not how humans work. How much commitment can mess your life up because of other people? A lot of people prefer one-night stands and casual flings because there's less connection, making the separation easier and less painful when something happens. And it's true though, commitment is terrifying, can put a lot of people off exclusive dating. But we have more time these days. In the older days, anyone hitting their late 20s to 30s was considered old and no longer worthy of getting a partner, so people had to hurry up and get someone before they got older. But nowadays, now that we've figured out age properly, we have more time. We don't have to rush into something serious, and a lot of people find comfort in that. Story 18. So far for me, it's been because the men are in their 40s. Single, never married, no kids, and are crapping their pants thinking they missed the boat, so if you don't jump in headfirst and stroke their ego, they bail. I've had one man cancel a date without telling me, thankfully a text to confirm, because I didn't endlessly text him so he deduced I wasn't interested. Like no, I'm a single mom kicking off a busy career. Another, after just matching and beginning to talk that day, who I told I was in the process of moving, freaked out about the fact I was not super engaged in the conversation. After one day, I was moving. So in my opinion, people are too desperate and think they need to find something now and try to force being immediately attached at the hip. Conversely, the divorced ones are so used to having someone 24/7, I think they're trying to replace the constant presence. I don't know. I'm obviously in my 30s, dating, so I'm not an expert, but that's been my experience. I acknowledge my damage is that I've been in long-term relationships I'd settled being in and that I'm not doing it again, even if it means I'll be alone with a pack of dogs and goats in 10 years. You can call me the dote lady. Doggos, guppers, they all have a certain ring about them. I'll accept any version. But seriously, to be fair to myself, not settling does not mean I have unrealistic expectations. Literally, the questions I ask: does he have a steady job or is he in the process of finding one? Low bar, but it must be asked based on past poor judgment calls. Does he sound like he respects women? Does he love dogs? Does he take the lead on finding adventures? Hikes, activities, not grand-scale adventures. I'm new to the area and kind of like someone who can take the lead. Is there any sign of emotional intelligence? Is he smiling in any of his photos, or does he permanently appear annoyed? All things considered, that's still a pretty low bar. Story 19. I think there are a whole bunch of different things, but the main things, I believe. For men, corn. Seeing ugly or average-looking guys sleeping with hot girls and even doing stuff with them, and they start believing that they should be able to get a 10 out of 10 when they're an average-looking or less than average-looking guy. Similarly, for women, apps like Tinder. The 9 out of 10 and 10 out of 10 guys sleep with anyone over a 6, and after that, there's women who would not want to settle for any less than what they have had already. I think a lot of social media, corn, dating apps just have everyone punching up and wanting to settle for someone who is less than they deserve. This is mostly what ruins it for online dating, which is massive now, and probably blind date type scenarios. I don't think this affects an organic relationship buildup, like friends starting to date as you aren't necessarily physically attracted at first, but it's the actual personality that makes you really like the person. Then, if you do actually have an organic relationship start up, you still have social media setting unrealistic expectations as all you see is the best of people's relationships and lives, so people feel like the relationship isn't as good or exciting. Story 20. Many people are way too emotionally unavailable while also dealing with untreated trauma. A lot of those people, good majority, are on dating apps. It's easier to hide commitment issues and other red flags behind a screen, or those looking for the next best thing. You match or go on enough dates with those people, you end up jaded and avoiding dating, or eventually become one of those people. Also, cannot forget trust issues. If you cannot trust, you control. Story 21. Generally, the media and social media have made it nearly impossible to have faith in finding someone who isn't categorically insane. Dating websites tend to perpetuate this mentality by allowing the most flamboyant profiles to look a lot like social media profiles, giving the distinct impression that trend-based popularity and emotional instability are the new normal. This goes so far beyond dating that even the largest corporations are struggling to identify who the target consumer is now, that companies are being bankrupted for identifying too strongly along political lines. The solution is to just stop all the media outlets and social media outlets from making celebrities out of lunatics, but of course, this is unlikely to occur. Story 22. Individualism. Any relationship, whether casual or not, requires some sort of commitment to certain rules agreed by both parties. And sometimes to reach an agreement, you need to budge. That's not unfair. Being not able to negotiate is unfair. Just ask those girls in the Middle East. The people nowadays believe that they're the protagonist of their own story and the world is their playground. When most of us aren't even born to be remembered, other than by our own people and maybe some documents at the government's registration that prove we exist. And yet, people watch these ads and listen to these so-called prophets that tell them to always aim for more, to never be content. And they believe people to be a product that can be easily replaced, so they don't dig deep nor allow themselves to be deep, because they see people as products, not as people. You've got mother truckers talking about status. Dating was never about your status. It was about finding a partner, and that's it. So take that paper crown out of your head, keep it down, and remember, you ain't crap for nobody but your people. Try to find someone who sees you for what you are and not for whom you want to be. Because if all you chase are wants, you'll never be. Spitting straight up bars, man. Speaking of bars and buns, that's a bad transition. But speaking of buns, click that subscribe and like button for more videos like this. Story 23. Dating isn't gone at all, but rather has declined to its natural meaning. People who are content with being single are increasingly not under any social pressure to get married and have children these days, so choosing not to is a popular option. Even for people who do want a relationship, the lack of pressure allows them to be selective and wait for one that will be good for them, instead of taking whoever they can from a young age. Whether the high rate of single people is a good thing for themselves and society might be a different question, though. Story 24. Guys don't know how to talk to women. I'm 25 and married. The dudes coming up who are my brother's age, 18, have no freaking game whatsoever, and everything is online. People meeting their significant other over Tinder and crap instead of going out, seeing a pretty chick and shooting their chance. Fear of rejection has these dudes paralyzed and insulated to the point that they only use apps when they don't tell you how many people swipe left in your crap and you only see those you matched with. It's sad as heck. Known as social graces or no's at a game, on both ends, not just men. Story 25. I don't think it's apps. I don't think it's the internet. I don't think it's changes in the culture of cis men or women. These are all symptoms. Instead, I think that the cause is simple. People don't have enough money and or time. U.S. society has been pushing more and more towards seeing us only as cogs, and cogs don't fall in love. So you meet someone. You want to set up a date on Friday? Well, make sure you have a job that lets you get off at 5 or earlier and a commute that lets you be home by 5:30. This gives you enough time to get ready, and you might be there for a date around 6:30 to 7 p.m. Also, make sure you have enough physical and emotional energy for this. You'll certainly have more time on weekends, but ask yourself if that's truly the case most of the time, or you won't be available when an opportunity arises. And you'll need that energy to navigate a first date. Now, getting from place to place is expensive, and the date itself is expensive. You can save money, but that requires extra time. And this assumes you've already met someone. Doing that takes time. You have to go to places, have time for hobbies, or at least go clubbing, if that's your thing, which all requires effort and expense, but you may or may not find anyone. The reality is that meeting someone takes time and effort and can take years of searching. This is why the advice is to first focus on friends and a stable social life, because you'll need them either way, and those are achievable in a much shorter timeline than finding a partner. And the lack of time to do it is why people end up going for Tinder, because it lets you double your potty time as partner hunting. It's just a symptom of the lack of time and money. It also doesn't help that the US is super utilitarian. Men who vote for Republicans should realize Republicans aim to remove all the cheap, easy spaces for a date. Public parks, hell, you can even do a very cute library date. For introverts, people each pick a book, then each one borrows the other book, and at the due date, you have another date to return them. The model with no public transport results in chains, and the privatization of everything means the focus is on those who have money and the time to spend it, not many of you. And the case is that this has happened before. It was very well documented in Japan, and there they didn't have Tinder or social media as we know it. What they had was an overworked population with an aging population that had full political control, eating their future and putting all the weight of their mistakes in younger generations. I don't think the US will get as bad as Japan, but we're seeing a lot of the same symptoms. Story 26. Lack of pressure for women to settle in relationships that will make them miserable. I'm serious. Single women do better in every happiness metric except self-reported. As if on cue, we're seeing movements of bitter men and movements to create pressure that would enforce again. I don't think it's a bad thing that more people are single, and I don't think it will change till a lot more men's values change. While obviously individuals are individuals, a lot of the dating behavior men hate in women are defense mechanisms. And said defense mechanisms are necessary because there are so many men that are complete schmucks in the dating environment. Story 27. There's a statistic that showed that in over 50% of marriages, the couples were introduced to each other through mutual contacts, friends or family. That means both people were vetted by someone they trust, aren't meeting each other in social settings anymore. Work-life balance, etc. Meeting organically, as people mention, happens rarely for most of us. We're quite defensive and complete strangers come up and talk to us for obvious reasons. As the Spice Girls said, if you wanna be my lover, you gotta get with my friends. So we need to make social circles with everyone. Single, married, dating, family, etc. And get introduced that way. Story 28. It's not just one thing. Adults in general are pretty stunted. People are more aware of toxic and cruel behavior, which is good. Women are financially independent and don't need to settle for some cruel slob. Nobody has money or time. There's a lot of entitlement from people who think they can do better. They can't, or that they deserve better. They don't. So they often overlook potential partners because they aren't some embodiment of a perfect ideal. Also, a lot of people messed up and had a baby in probably the worst time in modern history to do so. Not to mention how many people have gone ridiculously out of shape to the point of not being able to even go for a walk. I'm athletic and I don't need a partner to keep up with me, but I would like to. Actually go outside, you know? I would like to walk a block without having to stop at a public bench for 15 minutes. Speaking as a very attractive man, this is Reddit, so you can choose to believe me or not. I've not been able to find a single unpartnered woman living remotely in reality. Women live paycheck to paycheck who want to have a baby but also want to travel and have a huge house. In 2023, while also being the most boring and unremarkable woman child ever put on this earth, while also not having any hobbies or interests apart from watching trashy serials on Netflix, smoking, drinking, and being passive-aggressive and insecure. I've had more than one person ask me directly why I don't have a girlfriend, and none of these people consider that the juice may not be worth the squeeze. And from the stories my female friends have told me, the average man is far worse than the average woman. So maybe someday the world will grow up and realize that becoming desirable takes tremendous effort, discipline, and maturity, and that love takes time, but that day is not the day. Story 29. I actually look at it as more of a decline of marriage and long-term pair bonding. Dating itself is more active now more than ever. In a sample size of 50 years, marriage rates have dropped 60%. An argument could be made that decline in dating is a causation of decline in marriage and not the other way around, but when you look at a multitude of factors for delaying and not opting to marry early, such as higher incomes, closing wage and professional disparities between genders, fertility options, and maybe looser traditional stigmas, people can afford to not be in a relationship until they're fully convinced they've found the right one. That's where the dating app paradox of choice fuels that even further. Story 30. Instant everything. I think Dave Grohl said it. Gone are the days where you became a band by tooling around in your garage with friends for 10 years. Now it's America's Got Talent and impressing people in 30 seconds or less. A combination of we just don't have time to do things, and work or media speeding up things for our attention spans. Our free time is so limited that we're calculating if something is worth our time, usually in monetary sense, instead of letting something, a relationship, a hobby, cultivate. Story 31. This is from a men's perspective. Funny enough, the housing crisis plays a role, because especially younger people move out later or live with multiple people. They don't move around, meaning they don't explore new areas and don't meet new people. When they do meet someone, it's more difficult to meet up. You don't just take someone new home or immediately start living together, because then you're bombarded with questions and opinions you didn't ask for and are not freely capable of exploring the relationship. In turn, this means you explore fewer options, again, meeting fewer people, and maybe even close yourself off more. Social media contributes too, of course, because that also makes it easier to close yourself off to avoid being judged and gives you negative indicators by seeing others in happy relationships, which makes you doubt yourself more and, again, explore fewer options. Also contributing is modern feminism, not the original concept, with some people constantly shouting that all men are bad and monsters, which I know puts off a lot of people too. Financials are also a thing, which partly ties into the other two. Especially for dating, most women still expect men to pay for everything, not only burdening men unfairly even more, which can cause stress, but more importantly, this old way of thinking is simply not attractive to modern men. For example, I want a woman who is responsible for herself and has her own things going on, someone who's not reliant upon another person to live. To be fair, if they offer to pay or pay half, I still pay in full. At least then I know she's somewhat independent and has the capacity to do so. And which man doesn't dream of someone who makes them feel worthy and appreciated by offering to pay for dinner or whatever? Especially in some cases where men are seen as just dispensers for free dinner. Makes me so mad. But you can go on and on about how each of these is connected and basically forces an endless loop of discouragement. Story 32. Smartphones. Not so much just dating apps, social media, etc. It's the instant ability to connect with millions of people regardless of which channel you use to do it. People are paralyzed by the amount of options they have because of the ease of communication. Add to that front-facing cameras, and we've created a generation of narcissists. Dating apps are basically a game to see how many matches you can get, just like social media is a game to see how many likes you can get. Story 33. Internet. 100%. The people you see on the internet and social media are much more good-looking than the people we see in person when we go out. The difference is extreme. So standards have gone much higher, and we see each other as less attractive because we're so used to seeing beautiful people online. Then, by always seeing beautiful people, we become more self-conscious and feel uglier than we are, becoming less confident. Therefore, we approach less out of fear of rejection, and so we don't develop conversational skills, and we become even less able to get a partner. It's a cycle, a downward spiral. Depression and anxiety are on the rise. I see so many people scared of interacting with the opposite gender, even seemingly attractive guys and girls. All of this is so sad. I hate watching some of my friends always missing the opportunity of getting a girlfriend because they don't know how to talk, even if the girl likes them. It's absurd. I always have to tell them they just say to the girl, "I like you," and after months, they still can't do it out of fear. I don't even understand. Loneliness is becoming a plague. We expect much more than before in a relationship, looks-wise, money-wise, and so on. So we don't want to settle for less. We want more attractive partners because we've been brainwashed into thinking that's the norm. We're not as good at socializing anymore in person because of stupid social media. Everyone is fixated on their phone. They don't even know how to have conversations. It's very annoying, to be honest. Makes me want to be alone. Almost everyone sucks at conversing. So boring. People don't want relationships with people who are scared to interact. Below average guys feel doomed. They don't even try anymore. Girls don't settle for average guys anymore unless they have great personalities or charisma. They always want guys from the top 10% best looking ones. Even below average girls don't want below average or average guys anymore. Guys don't know how to flirt anymore. Hell, they don't even know how to talk, and they're insecure because they get rejected. Another cycle or downward spiral. Too much choice, too many people. We don't know what we want anymore. So many options make us much less satisfied with our partner, and the net shows us so many beautiful people that most in real life people seem ugly. The Industrial Revolution and its consequences have been a disaster for the human race. Just kidding, but the more I live, the more I think about this quote and how true it may be. Story 34. Confidence. Fact is, people are afraid to approach people in real life. In the early 2000s, you still had to have game. What is game? Basically, it's charisma. You have to be able to win someone over immediately and make them comfortable enough to give you their phone number. Today, charisma is harder and harder to come across. People know how to engage an internet crowd, but that same person would freeze if a room of 10 gave them their undivided attention. We are in a world where anyone under 35 grew up with a computer in their house or with easy access to one. There are teachings on how to type and use the internet, but what class actually teaches you how to hold a conversation? What class teaches you how to make an unoffensive, witty remark? What class teaches you to be funny and sound natural? You can't backspace a conversation, and you can't Google in the middle of a sentence. It's really easy to offend someone who wants to be offended. Outgoing people have encountered enough, I feel like being offended individuals to make everyone feel uncomfortable approaching strangers. All of this is just a lack of confidence. When you're confident, you take chances. The fear-mongering has hit us hard. People don't have confidence. When I was in high school, the running joke was someone eventually will say yes. Guys would literally have numerical goals for how many girls they would ask for their number per day. A no just meant they needed to tweak their approach. Stand differently, pace differently, make eye contact, and smile. Teenagers learned this through painful rejection. Story 35. Men being dumb and women having expectations that are far too high. Now hear me out. I'm a guy who married my girlfriend from grad school, whom I met the old-fashioned way, by running into her, and this is exactly my point. From my observations, I've never actually done it, online dating sets you up to fail. Way too many options for the human mind to handle. Won't go through the evolutionary biology or why this is, you can research that yourself, which leads to astronomical expectations. So when you finally do date someone, you quit at the first issue that arises. Wake up, people. You'll not agree with your life partner on everything. You will get into arguments. You will make messes. She will be more controlling than you want her to be. There's actually a psychological reason why women can be controlling. That is life. You have to figure things out and compromise and figure out how to function as a couple. Welcome to life. Story 36. I think that the quote, disposable society is the biggest strain on relationships today. Many things are made to be just trashed when finished or fed up with today. I believe this has leaked over to the dating world in a big way. It has progressively gotten worse with time, but even 20 to 30 years ago, it was different. If you felt like you had some kind of connection with someone, you stuck with them, through ups and downs. Now it's like dating just for intimacy and temporary gratification. Once any problems arise, in most cases, it's the end. Most people in their 20s don't look for anything long-term anymore. Based on personal anecdote. Obviously, I'm generalizing a ton and everyone is different. Cruelty is a totally different issue entirely, but these are the trends I see. Story 37. Anxiety. People stop being social while needing to be social creatures. That's why social media gives you some false sense of being socialized without going through the steps to actually be social. Now people flip out calling a business or meeting new people. It just stacks on to not being able to deal with adult situations. I know a lot of people under 40 who lock up when they have to be social. If they get overwhelmed, they have an anxiety attack. Yes, I believe they really are, and yes, I feel bad, but this wasn't normal before Amazon Prime, Facebook, and Instagram. Story 38. Opinions vary as to why, but the two biggest things I see are social media and the younger generation's inability to have personal face-to-face interactions because they rely so heavily on technology to communicate and decline of safe places to meet. When I was younger, the places to go were clubs. Yeah, discos, but whatever, and bars. These days, those places are not safe places to meet people. I have two sons in their 20s. They have no idea where to go to meet women. I think that's another reason that people are marrying later these days. Story 39. The interconnectedness of the media sphere coupled with their bias toward negative stories has created an environment where it's very difficult to build genuine trust. People end up believing that wild and extreme stories have a realistic possibility of happening to them. Women think that every man is going to mistreat her, and men think that every woman is going to use him. In all honesty, most people are trying to put in their best effort but believe nobody else is, which causes them to try less, in a vicious cycle. Not to mention the rampant discourse around gender and class, causing people to feel attacked for whatever identity they happen to ascribe to. While we're sorting all our feelings out about what a valid identity is, we're messing up generations of people whose first reaction to being seen by another person is to brace for judgment. Story 40. Young people are less interested in settling down until they're closer to 30 to 35. So their mindset is in a different place than previous generations who were trying to settle down in the 20 to 25 age range. Not saying this is good or bad, it's just a change. Divorce rates have been higher for a long time, so many young people have grown up in families where parents are divorced. The situation may not have been great. They could have had bad role models about how a healthy relationship should look. They could be so traumatized by their parents' issues that being in a relationship seems very undesirable. Dating apps. Yes, they can help you find someone you would otherwise not meet, but they also embolden people to behave in a way they wouldn't if you were meeting in person. They also give a sense of instant gratification. If you don't click with a person you're sitting at the coffee place with, you can literally get a new day without leaving the table. And for some people, the knowledge that there are 15 nice-looking people who all want to meet you stops a person from wanting to make a deep connection with just one person. Young people don't have a lot of excess cash to go on proper dates. They have college debt. Housing is expensive, wages aren't great, and especially if you've only been out of school a couple of years. Story 41. I'd like to think that we're currently in a transition period. A lot of boys are still being raised to believe that it's a man's world and it's theirs for the taking. A lot of girls are being raised to be independent and have some high expectations of what their man should be like. It was only about 50 years ago that a woman couldn't open a bank account without a husband. Those 50-year-old women are now mothers of the 20 to 30-year-olds trying to date. That is a weird period of time where women's and men's core beliefs are incompatible and clash, and as a result, dating has become a nightmare. I believe this will all balance out in the end, but in which direction is a mystery to me. Story 42. Selfishness and unwilling to compromise. People get into relationships expecting everything to be perfect, and the moment there's an issue, they jump ship instead of trying to fix it. Now, there are some problems that are breakup worthy, but a lot of other problems can be worked through. Relationships are hard work and take effort to be kept alive. Otherwise, you run the risk of them passing from growing apart. Another thing is the stupid gender war crap that you see now, with men versus women complaining about each other and who has it worse. Can we just agree we all have stuff to deal with and stop this senseless complaining from both sides? Well, if you like these stories, here's more. YouTube thinks you're going to love this. Catch you in that video.